former BBC royal correspondent, Michael Cole. Let me get your reaction, Michael, to that breaking story, an extraordinary story that the London Clinic is currently investigating the possibility that somebody in that building, in that place, actually tried to access confidential records of the Princess of Wales. What do you make of it?
Well, if that happened, it was a felony, it was vile, and it was despicable. But if we throw our minds back, Michael, to before Prince George was born, when Princess Kate, who was then the Duchess of Cambridge, was in another hospital nearby, the Edward VII Hospital, with severe morning sickness, a couple of jokers, so-called, on an Australian radio station rang the hospital pretending to be, I think, Buckingham Palace, and they were put through to a hapless nurse, a conscientious nurse, who thought she was doing her duty. And she spoke about her patient, and she wasn't a native speaker. She was an overseas person who'd come here to work. And she was highly embarrassed because she did give away some information about their very famous patient. So this sort of thing goes on. That was just malicious stupidity, but this is probably criminal intent with a view to presumably making money. So the London Clinic is probably the most prestigious hospital in this country. In addition to all the famous people you've mentioned, John F. Kennedy had treatment there in the 1940s for a particular illness that he contracted. So it is the go-to place. I've been in there once, but only just for a medical. I know that it was a pretty posh experience. And to think that that has happened to a woman who's really having a tough time and should be given ample space and opportunity to make a full and speedy and complete recovery, it is vile in the extreme. So I do hope that if this has happened, that the culprit has been apprehended and will be suitably dealt with.
Yes, well, certainly there's no question that it is an offence to access records, confidential records in a health situation. But I mean, no reputable publication in this country would ever touch anything like that anyway, certainly wouldn't publish it. So you can only presume that the person, if they were attempting to do something like this, was doing it at the behest, perhaps, of a foreign media organisation.
Well, that could be, couldn't it? There are people abroad. These people abroad know nothing. They have no sense of responsibility, but that doesn't stop them being prepared to jump like a tiger on a wounded lamb if it suits their purpose. They are irresponsible and they are disreputable, but we won't stop it because we live in a free world, and I and you were very much in favor of free speech. But of course, when you give people something, they will inevitably misuse it, and that's the tragedy of this particular story.
Yes, absolutely right. And what have you made of this kind of craziness that seems to have broken out across social media, across the internet? You know, you and I are old enough to remember the days when you didn't actually have such a thing as social media, didn't have such a thing as the internet, and words spread much more slowly. But it seems to have been turbocharged. This whole mad, crazed world that we now live in has suddenly got even more crazy in the last 2 weeks.
It is actually appalling, Michael. I deprecate it in the extreme. These rumour mills will keep on churning until there is substantial, on-the-record briefing. It doesn't do any good for Kensington Palace to identify friendly individual journalists and give them a briefing that at some future date the Princess of Wales may, in an informal situation with members of the public, divulge something about the treatment that she's undergoing and what really ails her at the moment. That really doesn't do, because it just adds to the tsunami of nastiness, vileness, crackpottery that is going on in social media. Social media, which is a wonderful thing, a wonderful invention, but it's turned into an amalgamation of a piranha pool and a cesspit, because people are so vile to each other and they say things that they wouldn't dare to say to people's faces.
Yes.
Well, that is the true mark of the coward. And that's what we're seeing. I would strongly recommend, if I were having anything to do with the Kensington Palace press office, which I don't think has been very effective. For goodness sake, the fake photo fiasco, something like that, good staff work would have prevented that ever happening. And perhaps maybe because it happened at the weekend, it wasn't prevented. There's always got to be in every PR office an abominable no man, somebody who'll say, no, that's a bad idea. And even to the principals they're working for, even to stop them, save them from themselves. And that clearly hasn't happened. And this is why this rumor mill is going on. It is damaging, and I'm quite sure it's very unpleasant for the princess. I think the sensible thing to do would be for the princess to consult her doctors and to allow a brief official health bulletin. We don't have to go into the details, but a simple statement of what she is suffering would suffice.
Yeah.
And perhaps that, after everything else, would stop the rumor mills. Because even with this this bit of film yesterday or on Saturday at the farm shop at Windsor, as you said earlier, people are questioning that. The Sun has come out and answered them quite robustly, as you would expect it to do. But when you look at that piece of film, I mean, I spent half of my professional life, that's 30 years, filming people or being in cutting rooms, looking at faces on film. Did that look to me like two people who knew they were being filmed? Well, I'm afraid it did. So was this contrived? Well, I think the giveaway is that there were no detectives in the picture.
Yes.
Their close support, close protection people were not there. They would normally be there dogging their footsteps, and they would be visible. Were they told to, stay in the background because we're going to do this little walk and perhaps a member of the public will see it and record it, and perhaps that will scotch the rumors? Well, I'm afraid that won't scotch the rumors. It just feeds them. So I think somebody's got to get a grip in the PR offices at KP and Buckingham Palace and have a plan. There doesn't seem to be a plan at the moment. The old train is rocketing down the rails with nobody on the footplate.
Yes, I think that is a big worry for an awful lot of people. Just to repeat, we're breaking the news here tonight that is in the Daily Mirror, in the paper tomorrow. The London Clinic currently investigating a situation where a member of staff, somebody working at the London Clinic, may have tried to obtain confidential medical records of Kate, Princess of Wales.